governments such as India. When I say imposters, my friend was talking about how India claims to be the biggest democracy in the world. Yet, India has came across in the last 50 years as the biggest hypocrisy of the world. Sir Muhammad Iqbal written once, "Sare jahan se acha Hindustan hamara." He thought he found a heaven because British was leaving and he was regaining his own country. But something has happened, and the same person came across to write, "मुद्दते हुई है रंजो कम सहते हुए, शर्म सी आती है इस वतन को वतन कहते हुए." When you talk about writers writing things, they usually write about women, they write about liquor, they write about good times. But when they write about politicians, believe me, they impact every person who reads their poetry or who listens to them. That's exactly what's happening now in India. Kashmiris are suffering in the hands of India. So is the Sikhs are suffering in the hands of those who gained freedom because of Sikhs. It's a rather double shameful act of India, because the Sikhs they had their own country, and British was nowhere close to them. India's ruled by British for 200 years. But out of 200 years, 100 years, they were trying to gain their hand on Punjab, where the Sikhs ruled in that part of the world. But it's unfortunate that India fought, Sikhs fought with a 90% plus sacrifice to gain freedom for India. It is just like, you try to buy a gun and give it to some gangster that he can come and loot you and rape your brothers, sisters, mothers. And then you say, for God's sake, that weapon is for me, not for him. So it's another 60 years now the Sikhs are trying to gain the freedom for now the most corrupt regime on the world, India, so they can have their own country called Palestine. It is unfortunate that we gained the freedom and handed over to them. Was it a miscalculation? Or was the Hindu leadership became deceiving the Sikh leadership? This has been a question all along. I was listening to a young lady that the girl as little as 8 years old were raped in Kashmir. But there are cases, the girl the boy is age of 7, killed by the Indian Punjab forces in Punjab and Palestine. And there are documents that 70 years old Gurdeep Kaur was raped in the streets of New Delhi. And she kept on saying, "My little sons, you probably are enjoying it, raping me. But believe me, I would do anything to please my sons." That's how shameful act that has taken place in India. Now when we talk about Friends of Kashmir, I'm going to say a few things that you may have raised your eyebrows. We often go to Indian consulate office and and do demonstrations. And we do it under the banner of Sikhs and Kashmiris demonstrating against the Indian government and their atrocities. But I only see few people. I see my friend Habib and his few friends. I would like to see you in hundreds. We would like to see it because people do notice when you go there and you raise your voice. This month is a rather very emotional month for every Sikh in this earth. It was 27 years ago, June 1st, 1984, when Indira Gandhi decided to attack the most holiest of holy place, Darbar Sahib, and killed thousands of pilgrims who came to pay their respect on our fifth Guru, Guru Arjan Sahib. Harinder Singh Mehboob writes this in Punjabi, I don't know how we can understand. Qaum Shaheed Guru de Buhe Kar Sutti Ardasa. That the entire Sikh nation has a sleeping now after they pay their respect at the Golden Temple. Dan Sarar Chor Jo Sarki Leke Kor Pyasa. Indira Gandhi is like a snake, sneaked into Amritsar and attacked the Golden Temple, closed all roads, and started bombing the place. And this week we are commemorating those who actually died in that attack by the Indian government. And those who defended the faith for 3 days. Those who defended the faith for 3 long days against this so-called most powerful democracy of the world. They were trying to kill their own citizens. They were trying to destroy the place of worship. So ladies and gentlemen, you don't gain freedom by talking only. But you also don't gain freedom these days by fighting only. The strategies must take in action. What we need to do is talk about the atrocities. What we need to do, my good friend from Peace Alliance was talking about the conservative government. On 23rd of May 1914, a Kamagara Maru ship came to Canada. And the Canadian racist white government at that point, they wouldn't let them off their ship because they were too brown. They were not white enough. They had a racist law called continued journey. So when these 376 people continued their journey coming to Canada, they were still not allowed to get off their plane, and after 2 months of negotiations, they were turned back. And when they got back to Calcutta, they were shot by the British rulers there. So this last week was the 98th anniversary of Kamagata Maru. And the government said it's a big mistake, but we don't want to apologize for it. And we're talking about the Kamagata Maru, the ship was turned back. But now they said we don't need to turn you back when you get here. We'll just rip your applications apart. We won't just let you apply for coming to Canada. This is a conservative government. And they laid red carpets to Indian politicians. We need to tell this government that you don't need to lay any carpet for them. They're entirely wet in the blood of innocent minorities. Our government needs to be more Canadian. Our government needs to uphold the Canadian values. Our government need not to be imposters like them that we are the champions of human rights. Yet you go and shake hands and share platforms do business with those who kill minorities. So I'm going to end at this point. कि पत्थरों की मूर्ति में समझा है खुदा तुमने, ये ब्राह्मण को सारे बात ने कहा था कि पत्थरों की मूर्ति से समझा है खुदा हमने, खा के वतन का मुझसे जरा देता है कि तू पत्थर दिया मूर्तियां नु पूजदा, you worship stones, but we live and we love our place where we were born. That is Kashmir, that is Palestine, and we must gain the control, we must gain our freedom. Until then, we can put our head down and live, but if we want to head high and live with the dignity, we must have a place on the global where I can put a finger and say, this is my homeland. Thank you very much.
So, at least dedicated people like Friends of Kashmir and Dr. Bangash, despite their other great pressures on their time, they get together and a very impressive gathering. Without this, we will not be able to educate our children. I'd also like to thank all those who came before me, Alia, Mr. James Clark, Mr. Sid Ecom, Sukinder Singh ji, who he and I speak at many places together, Mr. Khalid Muhammad, Mr. Ali Mullah. And I'm also very privileged today to be here together with one of the finest Islamic humanists in the world today, and that is Lord Nazir Ahmed. He is a humanist not only for the cause of Kashmir. He has fought for this oppressed steel workers in his own constituency. He is respected across the world. He has fought for all Muslim causes. If you read about him, I don't think he has missed any oppressed Muslim community, and for that matter, he's spoken for most of the oppressed non-Muslim communities. So sir, for me, you are a great moralist and a great humanist, and it's a privilege.
He talks about the human rights and the abuses of what Alia was talking about. 100,000 people that have been killed. It's easy to say 100,000. Look, I do not underestimate the 3,500, 4,000 people that died in Twin Towers. But these are individuals. We talk about Mr. Smith, Mr. Evans, Mr. whatever. One individual. And these are, we know the names and we remember them every year. But who will remember my 100,000 Kashmiri brothers and sisters that have been killed? One woman gets raped anywhere. 2, 10. And people remember that my sister, my mother, my relative, my woman from Toronto was raped. But there are more than 10,000 women that have been raped. And I say thank you to Anjana Chatterjee and her organization that actually found over 2,700 unmarked graves. Had this been in Iraq, and it was, we said that we would bomb Iraq because of these mass graves we never found. But there are graves in Kashmir. When will the international community say that the International Criminal Court must prosecute those responsible for the murder of the Kashmiri people? When will the ICC say that those responsible for the massacre of the Palestinian people in Gaza should be prosecuted in the International Criminal Court? And it is for this reason that all the speakers have talked about the campaigns. And I'm very grateful to them. And I think that the campaigns that we should be running is that first, there should be a demilitarization of the entire Kashmir region. 700,000 soldiers, again, is the highest military concentration. Alia mentioned this figure, and it is true. The highest militarized area in the world, and that needs to be demilitarized. Those soldiers need to go back to their barracks. Future talks, with all due respect to Consul General Saab, he mentioned out-of-box solutions. I agree with out-of-box solutions, but I do not believe in appeasement policy just to please the Indians. I am sorry, but nothing less than United Nations resolutions of 1948 and 49, nothing less than right of self-determination for the Kashmiri people, which has been promised by the international community. Peace will never come. Peace will never come. If you force peace, I know, I fully understand that Pakistan is weak. I fully understand that Pakistan has its own problems. I fully understand that India now has big friends because the international community wants to change the geopolitics and they want to make India a superpower. But I tell you, until people like me and people like you are alive, and until people who believe in justice, and this is where I say thank you to Canadian Peace Alliance and Toronto Coalition to stop the war, until good people around the world are around, we will never accept any peace which has been imposed by Washington DC, London, Brussels, or anywhere else. Peace. Kashmiri people love peace. They want peace. They urge for peace. But peace has to be based on justice. Peace has to be based on equality, where two people, three people in fact, India, Pakistan and the Kashmiris, when there is self-respect, there is respect for your opponents, for the other side. India does not respect Pakistan. India does not. India talks about having talks. Every time Pakistan goes for talks, India starts talking about terrorism. Because it's now become a cliche that you can talk about terrorism in Pakistan. Osama bin Laden, I don't know whether he was there or not. I didn't see any evidence. But they say he was there. And if he was there, so there are many terrorists who live in all places. There are more criminals around White House. I don't say it. Last time I nearly said it. And I'm on the YouTube if you check it out. All I said was that I believe that war crimes were committed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I still do. And I believe that Bush and Blair should be brought to International Criminal Court. And I still do. And I don't say it only in Pakistan, I say it in Toronto too. And they took it out of context and they said I mentioned, I'm a supporter of Khalistan. I'm a Khalistani myself, I tell you. I'm the founder chairman of the all-party parliamentary group on right of self-determination. So Khalistanis, the Dalits, the Manipuris, the Nagas, and of course the Kashmiris, they deserve the right of self-determination. And you are right to say that the largest democracy is the largest hypocrisy. Because what happens with all the extremists, people talk about Islamic extremists that you were talking about, Harper, that he mentions. Does he mention BJP, Shiv Sena, Bajrang Dal, RSS? Does he mention those people who burned down churches and gurdwaras and masjids and mosques in India? No. And I tell you what I hate is when double standards exist in our Western democracies, Western countries. But when Hillary Clinton goes to India and she starts talking about Pakistan, that is something that I hate, because if they are really friends of Pakistan, they should talk about Pakistan inside Pakistan and not in India. They do that. It is because of appeasement of the extremists in India. Because they now know it's the big market of 1.2, 1.3 billion people in India. And people are just interested in money and the business. So whether it is the Americans or the British or the Germans or the Canadians, they say, you know, this human rights and equality and justice and fairness and democracy and all the other things that we stand up for, they don't mean anything when it comes to our interests. And our financial and economic interests, these come before anything else.